Alright, so now we're going to see how to incorporate the headphone jack over here to the rest of the object. So let me go to the object over here. I'm going to take the headphone jack and I'm going to come up here to the modify panel. I can also right click on it and go to object properties. That's going to open up the object properties window for this object, and I can rename it here. The default name that 3ds Max gave was cylinder 001. I'm going to call this headphone jack and then hit OK. And then I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to go to hide selection to hide that temporarily. I'm going to go to my front view. This is the area where the headphone jack has to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge that's right here, and I'm basically going to see about maybe deleting that. Let me actually take these two edges. Let me go over here to this view. I'm going to take that edge right there, this edge here, and this edge here. And what I'm going to do is hit Control and Backspace, okay? And that'll get rid of those edges and the vertices that were right there, because if I just hit Backspace by itself on the keyboard, you notice that if I go to Vertex Mode, there's some vertices right here that get left behind. That's not good. So make sure that you hit Control and Backspace. That way those loose vertices are gone. Alright? Okay, so let me go back over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge here and that edge right there. And I'm going to use my Connect tool. So I'm going to use Connect. I'm going to my front view over here. And I'm going to say that I'm happy with that. I'm just going to hit OK. And I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to move it to about maybe right there is pretty good. Okay. Now I'm going to make another one. So I'm going to select those two edges. I'm going to connect that. Go to my front view over here, and I'm going to place this connection about maybe right there, okay? Now I'm going to select those two new edges that I created. I'm going to go to Connect. I'm going to make two segments, set the slide to 0, and that basically creates this new polygon right here, which I'm going to select and maybe scale up like this. Now I'm going to take these two edges that I created here, this one and this one. I'm going to connect that straight down the middle one time like so, and hit OK. So basically I have this polygon, which is where the headphone jacks are going to go. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Unhide by name in the quad menu. When I click on that, an Unhide Objects window pops up. Here's the headphone jack that I had hidden. I'm going to double click on it to go ahead and unhide it. There's my headphone jack. I actually positioned that pretty well right there. So let me select the headphone jack, and here's what I'm going to do. The headphone jack has this edge here, okay? This edge here. Basically, let me select these edges so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to select the loop. You can see basically that I have an edge that cuts through the whole thing in half, top to bottom, and side to side, okay? That's very important, because what I'm going to be able to do is the following. I'm going to go to Vertex Mode. I'm going to select all of these vertices over here in the top corner. Basically the ones that make this top right corner right there. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to my weld options. And what this will allow me to do is weld these vertices. You'll see that we have a weld threshold which is set by default to 0.1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to increase that until all those vertices basically get smashed together like that. I'm going to hit the plus icon right there. And I'm going to start to select all of these vertices here in the bottom right. Hit the plus icon to tell it to weld and continue. So select this stuff, hit the plus icon, select this stuff. Make sure you're selecting the correct vertices or you're going to get some weird results. Okay, so this guy jumped way up there. I'm going to hit OK. So basically I have these vertices right here that I can create a square with to fit with the rest of my model. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edge Mode. I'm going to select this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge that I don't need anymore, the top, bottom, left, and right edges. Hit Control and Backspace to get rid of those, and you should end up with something like this. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm basically going to go back to my perspective view. Now how do I make this match up? Let me take this guy here, and I'm going to take both of these polygons. And I'm going to see about deleting those. Okay. I don't need those polygons. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the pivot point of this object. So basically, What does that mean? Well, if we open up the move tool here, you can see there's my move tool. There's my gizmo that points up, left, right, down, forward and backwards. The X, Y, and Z axes right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to this point up here, to this vertex that's in the top corner, that one right there. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve that? Well, let me show you that right now. I'm going to select the object. I'm going to come over here to my Modify tab, and I'm going to come up here to the Hierarchy panel. And in the Hierarchy panel, I have an Adjust Pivot area. I'm going to click on Affect Pivot Only. Okay? And what this allows me to do, allows me to move the pivot point. You can see here the pivot now has these big arrow icons that allows me to move it around. In order to snap that to that vertex, I need to change my snap settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. Remember the snap button up here? Right click on it to open up the grid and snap settings. I'm going to turn grid points off, and I'm going to turn vertex on. And I'm going to close that. If I go ahead and turn on my snap tool by hitting S on the keyboard, you'll notice there's a little tiny gray circle that pops up right in the middle of the gizmo. If I hover on top of it, it'll turn yellow. Select it and drag it over here, and you should get this line that connects it to that vertex right there. Okay, so I can hook this up to any vertex I want. I want to hook it up to that vertex that's in the top left corner right there of that object. Once that's done, I'm going to turn the Affect Pivot Only button over here in the Modify panel off. So with the pivot point basically stuck on that vertex up there in the top left corner, I'm going to turn snapping off by hitting S on the keyboard. Now what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to select this object, and I'm going to select that vertex. I want to find the location of that vertex in world space, which is going to be the Y-axis. And to do that, I'm going to hit F12 on the keyboard to open up the Move Transform Type In tool. And this will tell me two values, the absolute world value and the offset world value. I don't care about the offset world value. I only care about the absolute value over here. So the Y value is negative 159 point something something something. So highlight the whole value, including the negative symbol, and hit Control C to copy that value. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this guy, and I'm going to paste the value here for this guy. And when I do that, basically it places it in the exact position in space that I want it to be. So now it's pretty simple. I'm going to come over here to my top view over here. Now I can go ahead and start snapping this stuff together. Okay? So to do that, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this guy right here. Or I'll select the computer case. Doesn't really matter which one. I'll go with the computer case. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on Attach. And I'm going to click on the little pink object here, the headphone jack, and it's going to make it part of the object. Now with that done, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hit 5 on the keyboard to go to element mode. This allows me to select the entire headphone jack. I'm going to hold down Shift and move this over to the right to make a clone. Now it's going to ask me if I want to clone it to a new object or an element. I'm going to go with element, hit OK. I'm going to go to my front view, hit F2 so I can see this better, and just roughly move this into position to where you have it pretty good. Right there, it looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go to Vertex Mode. I'm going to turn on the Target Weld tool, and I'm going to start to target weld this to those corners like that. So just target weld this, and it's going to make it part of the object. Very simple, quick way of working here. Makes our lives a lot easier. And if I go back here, voila, perfect headphone jacks incorporated into the object. And if I do a quick render, you can see they perfectly just merge into the object. Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and save your work. I'll meet you in the next video where we'll continue working on more details and things like that.